Hey guys, welcome back to Struggleville 2 YouTube channel. You're looking at the newest upgrade for the 66 Caprice. We got an aluminum radiator 4-core with the fan and the shroud and the overflow can and the wiring kit. Came from Leadfoot Racing, Champion Radiators.com. So check them out. I'll put a link down below. As I said, 4-core radiator. You got the 16-inch electric fan, the shroud, cool little overflow, catch can, as I bang it up, and a wiring kit that includes the relay and the temperature switch and everything, so we don't just have to wire up the fan to the key, because that's not good. So it looks pretty sharp. Upside down, but you get the idea. I figure we can assemble at least part of this in the house. Nice climate control, no bugs, no spiders, no mice. At some point we'll get out to the garage, remove the old one, and slide this one in. We got done what we could on the new radiator in the house. Have the fan mounted, have the shroud mounted to the radiator. Figured it was easier to do it in there. Now we gotta get the fan off, the old radiator out. You can see we're draining it now. So that's where it's draining. I'm sure it was supposed to be a petcock, but mine was just like a pipe plug in there. So while that's draining, I think it's time to unbolt the fan. Fan's out of the way. We're still draining. We'll do the top radiator hose there next. Anytime you have a stubborn hose like this one that's been on for over a decade, something like this from Astro Pneumatic really comes in handy to break it loose. Also got this one. Just get her in there and work it around. And it'll just pop right off. There you go. Top hose is disconnected. I took one of the plugs that the new radiator came with and put it on there, even though it should be fine. It shouldn't leak or make just to be careful not to make a mess. Anyway, I took off the trans lines. I added little vacuum plugs to the end of each one just to keep it from leaking there. Got the lower hose off too. I just need to unbolt the radiator. I was thinking about just taking it off with the little spacer all at once, but that bolt down there would probably be a real pain to get to, so it might be easier just taking the radiator off. It's only 4 bolts, so who cares? We'll take the radiator off first and see what it looks like with the spacer there. Radiator's out. Now I'm going to take this guy out because I want to see if the new radiator can bolt right up to this cross member brace. I don't know, maybe it will, maybe it won't. I just don't see any purpose of this. Especially now that there's no fan. We'll see if it bolts up or not. Getting it figured out. Even as I'm trying to put the new bolt in, I thought to myself, you know, you should move those buckets. You're going to drop the bolt in the antifreeze. God bless magnets. Got it all bolted into place. See the top bolt there. Kind of funny thing was, when I bought this, I had contacted the company, this Champion Radiators, and they had a clearance version in their like scratch and dent pile. And I think it was actually a lot cheaper. It was $70 or $100 cheaper than this one. And the only thing wrong with it was someone had drilled out bolt holes on the little mounting flange or whatever you call it. And I thought, at first I was going to go with that, and then I thought, I don't want something someone's already screwed around with, and if they've drilled different holes, maybe they're going to make it even more difficult on me. But then I had to drill out holes because they didn't line up. So maybe that person did me a favor and already had the holes I needed drilled. So it actually doesn't look too bad. You can't even see that I had to oblong those things. There's several different holes there. None of them lined up. Maybe if I would have kept that little spacer mount, it would have worked, but there's not a whole lot of space here. I don't even know if I could have used that spacer if I wanted to. Anyway, It's bolted up. It should be fine. I gotta hook up the fan. There was an option to buy a wiring kit for that. So I got that all here. There's a relay in here. There's a temperature switch, the wiring harness, and instructions for how to do it. So that's what we're working on now. One quick thing I actually wanted to mention before we move on to the next thing. One thing I found made it a lot easier was, like, here's one of the bolts. Here's one of the bolt holes for the radiator, and here's the other one. At first, I ran bolts with the head on this side and running them through the other way, so they're sticking out on this side, and then I could see better how it was lining up and what I had to do to get those holes to line up. Otherwise, it was kind of a pain. So running those the other way, I don't know, it worked out good for me. Try and give you guys a little look at the instructions in case someone down the line's doing this themselves. We have this inline fuse that the kit comes with, which is right here. So that's a red wire, it goes to the yellow, but it's going to the battery from the relay. The relay's here in the middle. You have an orange wire coming off the relay. Here's what the relay looks like. I put the end already on it, but these come off. You can see the little tab there. So orange goes to ignition. We have gray goes to the temperature sensor, temperature switch. And then we have a red that goes to the fan pigtail, and then the other wire on the fan goes to ground. And I'll tell you what, I think I'm just going to cut this plug off because this thing is trash. It's really kind of crappy. Here's the wire coming off the fan, and then they give you this wire to go with it. And if we look, it has a spot where this end on the left could have a tab, but there is no tab. It's just smooth, and it's very easy just to fall off. There's nothing that holds it in place. You can see how this has the little catch on it, but this end is smooth, and I could totally be missing something that I'm supposed to be doing here, but it just seems that comes off way too easily. I wouldn't trust that. I think I'm just gonna butt connect it. It seems like an easier thing to do. Or, I don't even know why I need this damn wire. If the wire's coming off the relay, the wiring harness, look at this wiring harness. I mean, there's tons of wire here. Do I even need this stupid thing? I'm talking myself out of even using it. First part's wired up. I went ahead and just eliminated that connection there since I didn't like it anyways. Then I got the red wire looping through here, comes around down through there, and I've mounted the relay right here. I'm going to flip it around when I actually hook it up, but the relay's right here. It's on the battery tray bolt, and then that black wire is the ground coming from the fan. So next we'll probably do the battery. I should probably clean that up while I'm here, but anyway, and then probably run behind the wheel well there, and then come out for the ignition wire and the temperature sensor. Power wire with the inline fuse is hooked up or ready to go. So we just have the orange and the gray still to hook up. I mechanical fingered myself. The wire's back there. Got that temperature sensor hooked up with the gray wire you see going into the block there. So we're good. The orange wire, I tied into this red wire here that's going up to the MSD box because it gets power when the ignition's on. Otherwise, I was just going to run it to the distributor. But the orange wire wasn't long enough to reach that far, but it could reach that right there. So that's hooked up. The wiring, outside of now hooking that up to the battery terminal, is good. It's all bolted up. My problem now is without that bracket, my radiator hoses don't reach. I was hoping to get this all done tonight, but it's about midnight and I can't get a radiator hose now. I also have the overflow that I have to figure out where to install and hook up the trans lines. Got the trans lines hooked up. that little jack I had sitting right underneath here to hold the radiator in place while I was lining it up. And the only other thing I'm doing here is these little plugs. This is what was plugging the trans lines, and there's one for each radiator hose. Then I have the original cap. Anyways, there's nothing wrong with that old radiator, and I'm going to keep it just because it works and it fits the car. So I'm going to put those plugs in the old radiator and store it somewhere. Got the overflow hooked up there. You can see the hose coming off and down. It goes down to the bottom there. I was trying to find a place that it would fit without hitting nothing. You can see it gets pretty close, and I still got to add the washer bottle there, so we had to leave that open, and the battery's over there, and there's nothing to go to over here, so that worked out pretty well. Just had to drill out this hole because the hole wasn't big enough for that bolt. And everything's so close together right here, that was kind of a pain to deal with. But I think it looks pretty good. Now we just need hoses. Can you believe that? Bit of a hiatus while waiting for some parts. So since I got rid of the support, the original radiator hoses wouldn't fit anymore. So I decided to go with these stainless steel ones, and it's been kind of an ordeal. It took about a week to get them, and dang, things are $60 a piece. They come with these rubber ends that you put the clamps on, but you gotta be careful buying these things because apparently you pay $60 and you don't get the chrome cover or whatever. You don't get the cover that goes over it. So those suckers took another week to come, and they were $15 each. Need 4 of them. So I don't know if I would have done that again. But anyway, these have to get cut to length. It says to use a handsaw. I'm going to try this little cutting disc on a rotary tool. I think it'll work pretty good. We'll get it lined up a little and cut it right there. There's another rubber sleeve that goes on this end. And then we also put on new heater hoses. The other ones were fine, but they're 20 years old, and I got the whole system opened up, so I thought, let's go ahead and do that. It's just a rubber hose with this braided stainless steel mesh stuff over it. One thing about them, maybe we'll do another video sometime talking more specifically about it, but the hose clamps they included were total trash. So there's 4 total hose clamps between 2 hoses, right? And 2 of them would not tighten at all. Just would not tighten. So I had to monkey with them to get them to work, because also the head on these hose clamps, the head on it there was smaller than all the other ones I had. I couldn't get them to fit inside the collar. So you can see since the last video we've taken off the carburetor and the battery because we're working on that Mustang over there too. So we got to get that all put back together. We'll get this cut, get it on, get the bottom one done. Now let's get this guy back together. The rotary tool wouldn't let me get the body close enough. It was kind of cutting at an angle, so we just used the lucky hacksaw. They cut it nice and easy. So we'll clean it up, make sure we don't have any shavings laying around, and slap it on there. Really should have went with rubber hoses. You see where that clamp is on there? Even if I were to get that all the way on there, at best, and it's not even going to go that far, the welds are there, it's going to sit like that. I'm not clamping the neck. So I could cut that. It's not going to have that ring. Fuck. Probably going to have the same problem down at the bottom. Oh, these things are a damn nightmare. An expensive one too. It's like a $150 nightmare. Got both hoses on. Probably could have cut that a little shorter. A little paranoid cutting it too short and then, you know, not being able to use it at all. It's fine. No end caps. Looking at the original radiator, they probably would have worked. Even feels backed up a little bit. Carburetor's back on, hoses are all connected. We just gotta get some antifreeze in here, try and start it. first startup didn't really go as planned. This top radiator hose ended up blowing off at the gooseneck over there. I really hate these radiator hoses. I wish I didn't mess with any of that part and just stuck with the electric fan and radiator. But anyway, that's another video for another day. Right now there's a scrap piece from the Mustang on here, and that seems to be holding. So we're going to try it again. And we'll go for a little drive, see what the temperature's at with the new radiator and fan. And the fans are on. You might have been able to hear it kick on. Listen to that fan go. One nice thing about the electric is if your car was getting hot, you can turn your key on and get the fan on. You can see the whole mess over here. That was when the hose blew off. I haven't cleaned that off yet. The other thing I meant to mention earlier, and I totally forgot, it's actually important, was the original wiring that I showed you for this fan had it as a pusher, so it was pushing air that way. And that obviously doesn't work with this setup, so just had to swap the positive and the ground, so now it is a puller and it goes this way, which is what you want. But it looks like it's a success. If you're interested in seeing more videos on this here Caprice 73 Corvette, 67 Mustang, or the 2018 ZR2, make sure to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like. I'll see you guys next time.